We are live.
Great.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Wendy Verna from Octo Design Group, and we're a marketing business that has had the pleasure of working with the Philadelphia Opportunity Zone team. And our work began with a marketing study where we heard that Philadelphia is unique. It's unique in that we have a clear message of what we're seeking to see in our Opportunity Zone projects. The OZ team is excited about supporting all projects that align to our goals of inclusive growth. Next slide. So welcome to Real People, Real Perspectives. And during this forum today, you're going to have a chance to view 4 short videos of real people giving their real perspective regarding our Philadelphia neighborhoods. In between each video, you're going to be prompted with a question, and we encourage you to answer that question in the chat. So we're excited to have Kathy Califano and John Modlock from the OZ team. They're going to be moderating the chat today. And we've also initiated a poll, and this poll is to encourage additional participation during our time together. So we encourage you all to use these polls. They'll get to let us get to know you a little better, and so we can hear your voices. So now I'd like to introduce you to Ann Fadulin, the Philadelphia Director of Planning and Development. Ann will be leading our discussion today, and through the chat, you'll have the ability to ask her questions. So don't worry, if your questions don't get commented on during this session, we will be sending you a follow-up to keep our conversations going. Ann, you could take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. And thanks to everybody who's listening in today. We're really excited to be hosting this. It's really important that we hear everybody's voice around this. As a lot of you know, the Opportunity Zone program that came out of the federal government did not in and of itself provide a lot of requirements as far as equity and neighborhood benefit and those types of things. So it's really important for us to hear from the community about what kind of things they're looking for, because in Philadelphia, we are really committed to meeting the goals of the Opportunity Zone program, which was about neighborhood and investment and growth in an equitable fashion. And we really want to pursue that here in Philadelphia. So I think with that, we are going to start with some videos that we're going to hear from some folks. And I think we're going to start with Leroy Fisher, who I have to say is an incredible champion for the Hunting Park neighborhood.
Next slide.
Hey, welcome and thank you for having me. My name is Leroy Fisher. I'm a proud lifelong resident of the Hunting Park East Tioga community. I'm also a member of numerous organizations within the Hunting Park community, from the Hunting Park Aztecs to Hunting Park United. The relationship between developers and RCOs within our community, and sharing the word with residents who may not be aware of what's happening, the change that is definitely coming to our community. It's important that we engage with our neighbors, our friends, those who live, work, and play here, and make sure that we're getting the word out to the change that's coming to our community. So it's essential that we all sit together and share resources, even if our organizations may not be on the same page or may not be in the same area. It's essential that we talk to one another, we talk about what's happening in the future, and we engage with one another in a positive way, instead of the change coming and then everyone's upset because they didn't know what was going on. Meetings with organizations from RCOs, churches, nonprofits, those that are on the ground, long before they start to build their developments and things of that nature, they need to be at these meetings and make themselves, introduce themselves, participate in the neighborhood cleanups or events that are happening. These developers will not always be just developers, they'll be neighbors. So you need to build upon the friendship and the needs of that particular community. If it's doing a cleanup, if it's doing food giveaways and things of that nature, it's essential long before you're asking for the neighbor support and the RCO that you participate in this project area. There's a great deal and a great need. I wish that developers would be more mindful of attending these meetings that are hosted by numerous organizations, from RCOs, churches, sports leagues that are in this particular community.
So next slide. Here's our first question. And again, we ask if everyone could put their answers in the chat. So and while you guys are doing that, Anne, do you mind discussing the way you feel developers can better their relationships with our communities?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think, Leroy in his video really touched on it, right? Go into these communities early and start by listening. A lot of times developers come into these neighborhoods and what they see is disinvestment, and they have the perception that they're going to come in there and they're going to save this neighborhood or they're going to build this neighborhood. And frankly, nothing could be further from the truth. These neighborhoods have been saving themselves for years, and they have an amazing level of resources already within these neighborhoods through their dedicated residents. The residents have oftentimes hung it out through thick and thin and have been there. They know the community better than anybody else. And so I think it's really important for developers and folks that are looking to do investment to go into these neighborhoods with an open mind, with open ears. And just as Leroy said, don't be the first contact. Be, here's my project, or here's what I'm going to build in your community. Have the first contact be, hey, I'm interested in doing some investment in your community. Tell me about your community. Tell me what it needs. Tell me what it doesn't have. Tell me what you wish it had. All right, if what you're interested in is a supermarket and housing, what do you think that looks like? What kind of things should the supermarket have? What size of it should it be? And we understand that, the investment community needs a certain level of return, and that a supermarket comes in with its own requirements. But I think the more that we can enter into dialogue and really match needs with the investment, the more successful these developers and these developments are going to be. And as Leroy said, you are going to be in this community for a while. You're going to become a member of that community. So you need to start building that relationship early on. And I think a lot of developers will be pleasantly surprised to find out then how much the community starts to rally around that project and own that project and take care of that investment. And so it's really in the best interest of everybody to start that dialogue early and to keep it open.
Terrific. Thank you. Next slide. We're going to go on to the next video. Next slide.
So here's another person. So I will just say, I have been in 4 board meetings this week, and I think Judith has been at most of them to provide testimony. Another tireless advocate for the North Philadelphia community. And let's hear from Judith.
Good afternoon. My name is Judith Robinson, and I am a real estate professional, real estate broker of many years. In addition, I am a committee person in the 32nd Ward. I am a representative of the 32nd Ward RCO. And in our interactions with developers, we have come upon information gap. The Opportunity Zone is a great opportunity to bring development to our community. However, if we're not educated and are not aware of the benefits, then we cannot offer this to developers, or we cannot talk about these things to our fellow citizens because they just are not aware. Education, education, education on all sides. On the community side, so we can then offer these incentives to our developers as they're coming in so they can do job creation and all of the things that these opportunity and other type of incentive zones offer. I would suggest that we get our elected officials involved in that regard. And then we also enlighten and incentivize the opportunity program for developers coming in. It could be a win-win for all, but education is needed. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Next slide. So our next question is, how can we provide channels so the community can better educate us on the projects that they would like to see in our neighborhoods? And Anne, just real quick, are you able to tell us where our community members should be going to get educated on opportunity zones?
Yeah, I'll say this, there's a lot of information about opportunity zones out there. So frankly, if all you do is Google opportunity zones, a bunch of information will come up. For those of you who are really into policy and into the weeds, one of the first things that'll probably pop up is a FAQ, frequently asked questions that the IRS has out there. That's really the technical aspects, right? For a sort of a little more user-friendly view of where you can get information, you can go to our website, and I know Wendy's going to talk about more on that towards the end of this. But at the website, what you're going to see is you're going to see a map of Philadelphia. You'll see the actual zones, which are census tracts highlighted, so you can know where the opportunity zones are in Philadelphia. There's some of those where the city has taken a deeper dive into neighborhoods, so there'll be more information about those areas, investment opportunities, maybe some projects that are going on there. And then there's also some information that's about if you're a resident, right? If you're a resident in an opportunity zone, how may that affect you? If you're a business in an opportunity zone, what may be kind of some benefits to you? And then also, I think what's really important is it links to a lot of our other programs. So if you are a resident in an opportunity zone, you might be worried about, well, my property value might go up or my taxes might go up. And there's also resources that are there that the city offers in order to make sure that the residents that are in these areas get to stay there and take advantage of the investment that gets made. So there's a lot of ways to get information about this. It's a lot of jargon. It's a lot of government words. Essentially, it's a tax break and it provides some incentive, but it's supposed to also give back community benefit. And I think that's, the role that the city wants to play in partnership with the communities is how do we do our best to ensure that those benefits come to the community, because unfortunately, the federal government did not require that as part of the program.
Terrific. Next slide, please. And then our next slide is going to introduce our next video.
And here's Darnetta. I feel like I'm saying the same thing about every single one of these people, because all these people are just such valuable resources to the city of Philadelphia because of the way they champion their communities. So let's hear from Darnetta.
Good afternoon. My name is Darnetta Arce. I am the Executive Director for the Brewerytown Sharswood Community Civic Association NAC program. The NAC program is sponsored through the Division of Housing and Community Development. I've been the NAC Executive Director for 5 years. Not only have I worked for Brewerytown Sharswood Community Civic Association, but I live in this community as well. And one of the things that we recognize and realize is that we need affordable housing in this community. So many developers come in here, which is fine. The area needed to be revitalized, and we look forward to that. However, we still need affordable housing for people who would like to maintain residency in this community and who may want to come to this community, whether it's rental or home ownership. We need affordable housing. And if you're doing a project and you're doing at least 3 units or 3 separate parcels, and give one back as affordable rental or a home ownership opportunity. That's all we're asking for. We look forward to working with you, but we need more affordable housing in this area. So please consider doing that, affordable housing.
Thank you. Next slide. So on to our next question, which I really would love for you guys to start to answer in the chat, which is, what do you feel is the greatest obstacle to inclusive growth within Philadelphia? And then Anne, maybe you can share some insights on ways that we can support affordable housing projects.
Yeah, thanks. So we have a lot of programs around affordable housing, right? But I think, as we heard, it's just never enough. And even though we saw on one of the facts that our median home price, which seems reasonable, $160,000, but that's been a huge increase, over 60% increase since 2010. So in some ways, that's great for the city because it means our values are increasing and our tax base is going up. In other ways, that's a really difficult statistic because unfortunately, although the home prices are going up, we are not seeing the same increase in income. And, no surprise to anybody, if your income isn't going up, but the price of housing is going up, that means it's becoming more and more unaffordable for too many of our folks and too big of a percentage of our population. So some of the things that we do, if you are an existing homeowner and you may have trouble maintaining your home, we offer a few basic home repair programs. Some of them are grants, some of them are loans, depending on your income level and your need. Access to almost all the programs that I'm going to talk about can either be through phila.phdc.org or through the Department of Planning and Development website on philadelphia.gov or phila.gov, excuse me. In addition, right now, because of the pandemic, we have a huge effort in getting rent assistance out to both landlords and tenants to do our best to try to keep people in their home. We know a lot of people have suffered a loss of income due to the pandemic, and so we are doing everything we can to get money out. We will be able to assist probably upwards of 10,000 plus tenants through those programs. We know the need is great, and we are trying to get that money out there as quickly as we can. We also offer, we have land that's available to developers as long as they agree to do affordable housing. We have credit enhancement for maybe some small businesses, small developers that are trying to do affordable housing. We do our low-income housing tax credit projects, which is affordable rental housing. We have a down payment assistance that unfortunately is out of funds for this year, but we hope to be able to bring that back in July of 2021 that provides down payment and closing cost assistance. So we have a variety of programs. We're constantly looking at new ways to expand our scarce resources. And we have a big advocacy push, I would say, not only with the existing federal government, but also with the incoming administration to really say that housing needs to be on the national agenda and it needs to be fully funded and sufficiently funded. And I would say one of our huge advocacy pushes is to ensure that housing choice vouchers, which is rental assistance, ends up being a program that's like food stamps. So food stamps, if you qualify, you get it. And we firmly believe that should be the same with rental assistance. Right now, it's not the case, right? Only a very small portion of those folks who qualify actually receive it. And we know that if you want to get an education for your children, if you want a certain quality of life due to good health, to be productive at your job, all of those things that are so important to our well-being really starts at home, right? And I think particularly during a time during the pandemic when all of us are being told to stay at home, right? If you have a home and it's a safe, quality, affordable home, that's one thing. If you do not, the irony of being told to stay at home when you don't have a safe, affordable place to be is just cannot be lost on any of us. Thank you.
Next slide. We'd like to go ahead and you can introduce Venice.
Yeah, so Venice is a wonderful advocate for the Fishtown community. And I would say this with Venice, not only is she an advocate for the Fishtown community, but she's really started some things, particularly around safety with a lot of the new home construction that's going on as infill in neighborhoods that really translates throughout the city. And so she is just an incredible resource for the city of Philadelphia.
So you could play that.
Hello, my name is Venice Whitaker. I'm a longtime resident of Philadelphia. I currently live in Fishtown, and I'm also a community activist. I thank you for the opportunity to speak about opportunity zones. So one of the things I feel like that is most important with opportunity zones is in the sense of housing and work opportunities. We do not see enough workforce housing in the sense that you live and work within that community, within that neighborhood. At one point in my neighborhood of Fishtown, there was a reuse of buildings for teachers. You get to live there and have a discount if you're a teacher. Wonderful. There was other ones that were for artists, work to live space. You work and you live in the same space. There's been a few reuses that were like that, geared essentially towards the employment and a place to live. We need to see more of that with new builds and reuse, that there is a component aspect of the commercial and also who is living in there. We should build for the people that are here that need it, also for the people that are coming in. You build up the community having essential businesses. Some neighborhoods, they don't have these essential businesses in their neighborhood. All these essential things that I need, food, shoes, and we're not seeing that in our neighborhoods. So within the new builds of any opportunity zone, there should be essential businesses. As has been defined in 2020, what is essential? What can we not live without? What do we need to actually survive and thrive is very important. And that should be included with all the opportunity zones.
So next slide. So our last question is to everyone out there is, what do you consider as an essential service for your neighborhood? And Anne, is there a way to ensure that essential businesses are part of development within an opportunity zone? Maybe you could
So I think that's something that we're really interested in. The Commerce Department in the city has really gotten a new focus. I would say they always had an interest in and always promoted our community and neighborhood commercial corridors, but I would say that's really risen upwards, and that's really a focus of the Commerce Department now, is how they can bolster our commercial corridors and provide and support more of these essential businesses. Frankly, over the last 9 months or so, just keeping any businesses up and going and running has been really difficult. And again, similar to our rental assistance program that we've been doing on the housing side, the Commerce Department has set up several programs to assist businesses in association with also, I should say, the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation as well. And I think, part of this is just that dialogue between business owners, community members, and the Commerce Department and PIDC about reinforcing what are those essential businesses and making sure that the programs that the city's coming up with and developing and supporting support those businesses. And I think there's a lot around food access that's happening. And then I think some of those other things that Venice mentioned, right, is just sort of amenities that any community wants to see, whether it's, a dry cleaner or a drugstore, some other kinds of services, a bank. For a long time, it was very hard to get bank branches in different areas of the communities. And so I think, those types of things, and if there's specific ways that we can support those businesses, I think we want to hear about that. And figure out how we can strengthen, in particular, our neighborhood and our community commercial corridors.
Terrific. And John, I wanted to just see, is there anything in the chat that maybe we can address? If anyone.
Yeah, I think I'd like to really, the chat focuses on really one issue, and that is communication. And I'll just, try to capture the sentiment, which is one, that communication is a two-way street, and that, community groups should also be reaching out to developers, and that it's important for both parties to want to have a conversation. Communication needs two people, two parties, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who's reaching out, but both should feel comfortable and free to reach out to the other to ensure that communication happens. And then the second tandem point is that because of the nature of opportunity zones, the complexity, the things that the different parties that have different interests, that really you can't do that through a website, that you really need to have the conversation and the communication for it to be successful.
Okay. And Anne, did you have anything you wanted to add on communication?
No, I think that's, I think honestly, communication just applies to everything in life, right? Is oftentimes when we see conflict or things break down, it's due to a lack of communication. And I would say it's not just communication, but it's open and honest communication, with integrity. And I think one of the things that we talk a lot about at the city is really sort of what's our role, because I don't think we don't see our role as everything. Right. We want to respect the community. We feel like they have a lot of resources to bring to the table, and we understand that, and the city does not need to be the community. We also understand that investors and developers have resources and things to bring to the table, and that doesn't necessarily need to be the city role either. However, I think, you know, what we want to hear from folks is what should the city's role be? And it seems that maybe part of that is helping to form that bridge with the communication. And how do we make that clearer? And how do we make sure that our message is clear? Because I think that's something, you know, I'll just say it as a city official, that sometimes our communication is not as clear either, because we get caught up in all the jargon, right? We deal with these programs or these processes every day, and we have an acronym for everything, and we end up talking in acronyms and people have no idea what we're talking about. And so I think, you know, that emphasis on communication, I think John raises a good point, that communication, you know, not just goes both ways, but goes all ways, and how we can improve on that. And agreed, a website isn't sufficient. There were a lot of panels and events around opportunity zones when they first came out. When we are able to do that again, it probably makes sense to have some type of those events again. And probably rather than have them in conference rooms in buildings in Center City, we probably need to have some more of those out in the community. I will just say, you know, one of our speakers was from a NAC, and they provide a huge service to the city. As the woman mentioned, we fund them through the Division of Housing and Community Development, which is housed within the Department of Planning and Development. And that really is one of our best vehicles to get information out to communities, to hear information back from communities. So we have a presence out there, and I think we just need to take advantage of that and make sure that we are erring on the side of communicating more and not less.
Thank you. Next slide. So I encourage all of you, we have launched a new Opportunity Zone website, which is philaopportunityzones.org. And this will have a lot of that information which Ann and John speak to. And the site really provides information and resources, and it allows you to connect to all the acronyms, the PHDC, PIDC, Commerce, EPD program. So it's a place where you can really read the blogs, which we're posting regularly. You can get quick links to our social platforms. You can gather all types of information on programs and everything that complements an OZ initiative. Next slide. And lastly, we really would like all of you to follow us on social. We're posting daily on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and we'd really love to see everyone there. And again, back to everyone's point about communication, this is a great communication method, and we'd really like to see you all. Next slide. So we want to be able to thank everyone for coming. I also will be sending out additional communication to you and everyone on this particular forum, and we have the next forums coming up. And did you have any last words that maybe?
No, I just want to encourage folks to continue to attend these forums. Please use the website, use social media, any of those ways to communicate with us. I would say stay tuned. We are continuing to work on our Opportunity Zone effort. We hope to be rolling out some additional ways and methods to communicate in the future. And we're going to continue to work on this. And let me just say this, particularly ideas, answers to those questions that come through in the chat. One of the big efforts is going to be with this new administration is advocating about how the federal government can maybe adjust the Opportunity Zone program to make sure that there are real protections in place to require some of the things that we've talked about, some of the things we talk about on our website, which is how do we ensure that there are jobs for community people that come out of, community residents that come out of these investments? How do we ensure there's opportunity for wealth creation for community members in these investments? How do we ensure that there's affordable housing? How do we ensure there's opportunities for local businesses? We are committed to having opportunity zone projects that get the support of the city to make sure that they have, not sort of just the standard equitable elements, but really leading edge and cutting edge and like pushing the envelope equitable elements. Again, unfortunately, because the federal government didn't provide any of those so-called guardrails, we do have investment that's going on in the city right now in opportunity zones that does not necessarily have equity components because they really don't need any assistance from the city and they're being financed totally on the private market. For those projects that do need city assistance, we are going to require that they have that equity component. But we really want to continue to push and make sure that every project in an opportunity zone or in the city of Philadelphia, frankly, has that equity component.
Terrific. We really want to thank our participants. We want to thank you, Anne, for all of this great insight. We encourage you to stay on the chat for a little while. And if not, that concludes our first forum. We look forward to seeing everybody for 2, 3, and 4.
Great.
Thank you.
Everybody have a healthy, happy, wonderful holiday season. Wear your mask, wash your hands, pay attention to social distancing guidelines. The only way we're going to get through this if we all are in this together, although still continue to stay 6 feet apart. Thank you.
Thank you.